I'm going to be a proactive fiscal watchdog for the state of Florida.
Finally, Florida has a CFO.
He's going to be a really important voice for what a lot of Floridians are asking for.
Point man on property insurance, money coming in and going out. On the eve of swearing in, Blaise Ingoglia is right here, live.
If we get this wrong, future generations will pay the price in shame.
Dignity Act 3.0. Can a South Florida Congresswoman solve a national struggle over the undocumented among us?
White House nor the president has actually read through this legislation.
Yes, they broke the law, but someone gave them a job because they needed those workers.
Congresswoman Maria Salazar right here, one-on-one.
Oh my God, they're trying to get him out of the plane.
It has happened again.
Something got to happen, with Perry Airport. Something has to stop.
The latest crash, the airport, the neighborhood, and the call for change.
That airport is simply no longer compatible with our city, and they have to find an option.
We take it to the county that runs North Perry Airport.
It's never pleasant when you get a negative response from an appellate court.
Appeal denied. The Miami commissioner facing a multi-million-dollar judgment. The city's cost TBA.
Why is it that we continue to pay for his lawsuit?
The big news of the week and the newsmakers live this week in South Florida. Good morning. Great to have you with us this hour. Afternoon tomorrow, Florida will finally have a chief financial officer. The governor, surprising no one, naming State Senator Blaise Ingoglia to the post that has been vacant for more than 3 months now.
Someone that has a very clear record as a warrior for all the things that the voters that elected us want us to do.
The state's chief money collector, bill payer, and auditor is also the one who oversees the insurance industry, putting the CFO in the spotlight for Floridians struggling with storm insurance. The politics of the governor's pick is another headline. As governor's choice, Ingoglia will be the incumbent in the Republican primary, likely against President Trump-endorsed State Senator Joe Gruters. Ingoglia is a home builder and former chair of the state's Republican Party. Tomorrow, he will officially be sworn in as CFO. But today, Blaise Ingoglia right here with us, zooming in from Spring Hill, Florida. Senator, Senator for another few hours. Ingoglia, great to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So you have, as CFO, you will have a roster of responsibilities, a lot going on in that office. Primarily, the property insurance basket is the one that so many people are really riveted on. And I want to talk a lot about that, but I want to start with a bit of a wider lens, if we can, and that when the governor named you this week, he said that he is naming to CFO the most conservative lawmaker in the state of Florida, the most conservative senator. What makes you, are you that, and what makes you that?
Well, I'll take the governor for his word. I mean, I think I am very conservative. And I think one of the reasons that the governor appointed me is my ability to get into details and start looking at things from a different perspective and then delivering better outcomes. Look, I'm a fighter. If I see something wrong, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican doing it, I'm going to call it out. I'm not afraid to take on the establishment. I'm not afraid to take on the status quo. And I think that's what we have seen out of my legislative career over the past 10 years.
It's true. Some people we talk to consider you to be a thorn in their side. And I think that's probably a compliment in some ways that you would take. Let's go to property insurance, because you said something very similar. You said this week that if insurance companies do not do what they are obligated to do, what they're contractually obligated to do, what they say they're going to do, you said, I am going to call you out. You're in the kind of seat, or will be in the kind of seat, where you could do much more than call out those companies. Do you have anything in mind, or any company in mind right now that you are targeting for something?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to target anybody for anything except for bad behavior. I think what we've seen in the past is the inability or unwillingness to actually fine or hold insurance companies accountable for not doing what they are contractually obligated to do. Over the past couple of years, we've had some reforms in the insurance industry because the industry was, quite frankly, getting ready to go bankrupt. We weren't going to have an insurance industry, but the reforms were able to keep the insurance industry afloat, where people can get insurance. We're having more people, more companies enter the market, helping to drive some of those costs down. But it doesn't mean that insurance companies get a pass. What I'm going to do, because my job is to protect consumers, if I see an insurer not doing what they're supposed to be doing, if I see an insurer breaking the law, rest assured, I'm going to hold them accountable.
So you are a home builder by profession. Your predecessor, Jimmy Patronis, who's now in Congress, he, as lawmakers were making those reforms, he repeatedly said that a lot of lawmakers said this too, the problems were in frivolous litigation costs. That was one of the things driving up insurers' premiums that they were charging, and also what you had said was the rising costs of rebuilding, which I guess that's your profession, is also driving up costs. Litigation, they said they did something with in one of the reforms that home building costs. That's not something that the state can really control, and those are certainly going up. What do you see there?
So yeah, a couple of years ago, let's say 5 years ago, your home was worth $200,000. And now in today's market, because of the increase in real estate prices, your property taxes are going up. And also your home insurance premium is going up because your homeowner's insurance is based upon the replacement cost. So if the value of your house goes up, so does your premiums. I'm going to be laser focused on housing affordability, the things that we can control. Now, we cannot control prices of the homes, but we can control after hurricanes just how quickly we rebuild. One of the frustrating things that I see is that communities cannot get back online because government is basically thwarting them. You know, it's taking, if you have a home damaged in a hurricane, it should not take a year to pull a permit. You should be able to get your permit and rebuild as quickly as possible. So that's one of the areas where I think that we can help.
I want to go back to something that you had said, calling out insurance companies facing consequences. I'm sure you know about in March, there was a House investigation sparked by a Tampa Bay Times report that insurance companies, there was a report that had surfaced that had been hidden, I don't know purposefully or not, but this report surfaced that showed that insurance companies, when the prices were starting to spike, they were claiming hardship and losses as the hurricanes hit. And then this report showed that they were funneling billions to affiliated companies out of public view, and that they were making billions, not losing money. There was quite the outcry. There was a House investigation. You don't hear much about that anymore. Is that something that you'll be looking at?
Well, I will tell you that we had offered some reforms last legislative session that allowed us to look into that, offer more transparency. So the way those insurance companies are set up, the state doesn't have much authority to claw into the financials to see exactly what happened. Now, that is something, one of the reforms that I think desperately needs to happen. We have to have clarity. We need to have transparency when it comes to these insurers and how they operate. So one of the things I'm going to be pushing for also is making sure that we can open the books and check those. And if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they can expect fines.
How much involved are you? Right now, Citizens, it's trying to depopulate. I mean, every Florida insurance payer in the state is on the hook if Citizens goes insolvent. The depopulation of Citizens comes with what could be a 20% increase in premiums for homeowners who are taken out. Where does that stand? And how much of that in the private insurance industry? I mean, people just don't have any leeway or say whether they get taken out of Citizens.
Citizens, an increase in Citizens policies is a risk to the financial health and well-being of the state of Florida. People do not understand that if Citizens becomes insolvent, they go bankrupt, they can assess every single insurance policy in the state of Florida. So you're going to pay for it one way or another. And we do not want that to happen. The way we mitigate that is to make sure that we have a vibrant insurance economy here where people are starting companies and driving down rates where you don't have to go through the Citizens. In a perfect world, everyone can get private companies, offering them great rates. But at the end of the day, we are a peninsula that is jutting out into the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf. We have hurricanes, so that's one thing that we have to worry about. We can have the best of all worlds. I don't understand how people say that we can't have a vibrant economy, a good insurance market, holding insurers accountable and keeping costs down. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, and I want to turn to property taxes. That's the other 1-2 punch of our viewers that we hear from all the time. You had said that you are fully supportive of what the governor floated this session in eventually looking into, it has to go to a referendum, but totally eliminating property taxes. And it comes at a time right now, especially this week, we're hearing some municipalities unveil their budget proposals. Across the board, they are cutting some significant programs and services and looking ahead to what's going to be a very tough year. And that's what property taxes pay for. So take us through how that would work and what you foresee replacing that revenue with.
So the first thing is that I think it's a faulty assumption that the revenue actually has to be replaced. That is making the assumption that local governments are spending wisely and frugally and fiscally, and I just don't believe that. In fact, I know that it's not a fact. How do we know this? It's because after the prior 5 years post-COVID, local governments' general fund budgets, the portion of the budget that is funded by property taxes, have exploded anywhere between 60, 80 to 120%. Their budgets on average pretty much doubled. So, but let me be clear also, the proposal from the governor is to eliminate property taxes on homesteaded properties, because he believes, and we believe, that if you're continuing to pay government in the form of a tax, you really don't owe your home. You're just renting it from the government. So how are we going to do this? We're going to go in, we're going to start looking at local governments. We're going to make sure that they are right-sizing their budgets. And then the numbers show that we can probably get to eliminating property taxes. At the very least, it's going to be a question on the ballot that is going to be answered next November in 26. And whatever the legislature comes up with in terms of cutting property taxes, I'm going to be out front making sure that they know that they have a champion of lowering their property taxes in the CFO's office.
So the state is going to each of the 67 counties and hundreds of cities to look at their budgets? How does that work? How is that going to work?
The CFO's office, as long as the legislative authority given to the executive officer of the governor, has the ability to audit any entity, government or otherwise, that gets state funds. So any government in the state that gets any state funds, whether it be an appropriation, whether it be just something in the regular budget that flows down, we are going to start asking for stuff. We're going to start auditing them and make sure that they're not spending frivolously. And anyone who can hear my voice, you know, when I get in office CFO, if you have a government that you think that is wasting money, get me the proof, show me, and we will contact them.
Next time you come, when we have a little longer, I want to go into like what is waste and what is not, because I think that's one of those things that is a really interesting conversation. Before I let you go, I want to talk about Alligator Alcatraz. You were there, you toured it, and you came out finding the conditions acceptable and comfortable. We've reported so much on that and continue to. What I really want to talk about with you today is the actual, what will be in your wheelhouse, $450 million for a detention deportation center. Is that at the moment, now that it's up and running a couple of weeks and you see what's going on, do you find that an appropriate expenditure of money?
Is it an appropriate expenditure of money? Yes, unfortunately. And the reason is the Biden administration and de facto open borders. Look, we have so many illegal immigrants in the not only the state of Florida, but the United States. The sheer amount dictates that we have to have these holding facilities. So I understand the question of why are we spending money on a detention facility such as this? But the answer is because we have to. Because we've been overrun over the past 6-7 years by open borders. Now, thank God President Trump is in there, basically stopping the inflow of illegal immigrants, especially criminal aliens. And thank God that Ron DeSantis is taking the lead. Our governor has done an exceptional job. on this. But let everyone remember that the money that is expended will be reimbursed by the federal government.
Well, that's what we've been hearing, but in the court filings, the federal government is saying that that's not even on the table yet. So, you know, we don't know that at the moment. Here's my question. President Trump's mandate was to get the criminals out of the country who are undocumented. That was the purpose, the stated purpose of this detention center in the Everglades. We now know, a couple of weeks in, that there are countless people there who are not criminals, some who don't have criminal records, some who have not been through the process and don't have removal orders yet. And sort of the second part of that question is, there's that big runway that was supposed to take people who are there temporarily and deport them forthwith. There has not been anyone deported yet. Do you know what's going on?
Well, the first thing is that the immigrants, the illegal immigrants that are in that detention facility, I think the whole idea was to have them in there anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks before they actually get sent. So I think we're very, very early in the process. I don't think anyone is in there for more than 2 to 3 weeks right now as it stands. So
it's open
my guess
3
is we'll
weeks,
start seeing,
right?
my guess is then we'll start seeing some of the deportations. But look, I don't understand where it is my assumption, and everything that I have read in the conversations that I had, that they have gone through the process. That is the final step for deportation. Now, I also understand through the conversations that the vast majority of the people in that facility do have some sort of criminal record. But let's not forget, crossing over the border illegally is illegal, and they're not supposed to be doing that. So everyone there should have deportation orders. That is the process that has been lined out. I have not heard of any. Listen, I don't listen to conjecture. I want to see facts. Unless somebody shows me that somebody is there and somebody has not gone through the process, I'm not going to believe it, especially when it comes from the left.
Understood. I'm big into facts too. Off air today, I can send you a couple of names because we actually have confirmed that 100%. I'm on your same page. Facts are facts. Soon to be CFO, Blaise Ingoglia, it's great to have you in the program. I hope you come back, and congratulations on your swearing in tomorrow.
I will come back, and thank you.
Excellent. All right, could the third time be the charm? As the nation struggles over the fate of undocumented people, a South Florida Congresswoman spearheads a plan. Maria Salazar and the Dignity Bill is next.
If we do not fix our legal immigration system, we are going to have an economic calamity on our hands.
It is our job to fix the broken immigration system.
And from the Timing is Everything files, South Florida Congresswoman Maria Salazar is once again trying to get Congress and the president behind a massive bipartisan immigration bill. It's called the Dignity Act, and it means to cover border security along with opportunity for those who have been here working and contributing to earn a stay. It allows those working in the U.S. at least 5 years with no criminal record to pay a yearly fine and be protected from deportation. Receive continued work authorization. They would not be eligible for social programs like Medicaid, and there is no path to citizenship. Congresswoman Maria Salazar thinks the timing is finally right for the Dignity Act as the station fractures over the Trump administration's aggressive deportation plans. Congresswoman Maria Salazar, great to have you on the program.
It's wonderful to be with you.
All right, so I feel like we've had this conversation before. You're here talking about the Dignity Act 1.0. This is 2.0. Yeah. And I remember we talked about
3.0.
Is it 3.0? I remember we were talking about how everything anyone wants is in this bill. Why hasn't it moved? What is different now?
Because in politics, just like in life, everything is timing. And this is the right time. The GOP always said that we were going to be ready to look inside and see who was undocumented or illegal. We were going to take care of them once the border was sealed. The border is now sealed. We have allotted $150 billion for security at the southern border. So now is the time to say, okay, what are we going to do with those people who have been here for more than 5 years, that have been working, contributing with the economy? They do not have a criminal record, and they're not going to be deported. What are we going to do with them? Let's give them the dignity status.
There are people now in this country, many of your constituents, many of South Florida elected officials who have always been on the front lines of immigration reform. So now the components, how are they different for them? People who have been here more than 5 years, you mentioned, there's a component where they pay a certain amount of money over the course of their stay here while they're working, but there is no path to citizenship this time.
And that's correct. There's no path to citizenship. That is the famous A word, the amnesty. So that's why I call that this bill is Solomonic. It's in the middle. You know, in the Bible, Solomon, he broke the baby into two, or he wanted to.
Well,
so
Actually, Solomon never had to break the babies.
That's right.
So
But
there's
you know
that.
what? He had that idea. So let's break the baby into two. Let's don't give any path to citizenship. Let's give them the dignity status. Because you and I know very well that if you've been here for more than 5 years, you've been here for 20 years, you have 3 American children, you have been contributing to the economy, you do not have a criminal record, and you have been breaking your back on the fields of a homestead. Let's give you some dignity. You do not necessarily want path to citizenship. You pay $7,000 over 7 years. Maybe your employer will pay for you, and then you're going to be able to go home for Christmas or to go bury your mother, raise your American children, pay taxes, buy a home, join a union, and live a dignified life in the promised land.
So what
that is what we can do right now.
Understood. And so for these people, what is the end game? Does this dignity status end at some point? Is this temporary?
You renew another 7 years.
For life, you can just keep renewing.
Of course, and then that's right.
Okay,
and
so
then you stay until you want to, and then you go back home.
Okay, and so it's my impression that a lot of the people who are very hard line on immigration, they don't make the comparison between people who are here legitimately illegally, who may be criminals, they're illegal, they have go through the process, they're deportable. There's very little attention to the distinction of people who might have temporary protective status, to your point, who've been here so long, people who have requested asylum, who are going through a very legal process. Those set of people are here legally at the moment.
That's
and right now there's right now a very hard line look at them to make that go away for them.
And that is that the TPS and the I-220A, 500,000 Cubans, they are part of the dignity program. We give them dignity. At some point in the future, another legislator will write another law to give them path to citizenship. Right now, what we need to do is to buy peace for these people, allow them to stay, to continue working, because they are needed. You see, what I'm trying to do is to bring some common sense, which is the least common of all senses, to this conversation. And I know that someone from Miami could do it easily because, you know, I was on Univision and I served that community for many years. Besides, now I'm representing some of their family members. It's easy. The economy needs them. They do not have a criminal record. They have not gone into trouble. They have been here for a long time. They have roots in the country. Let them stay. Don't give them any type of federal programs. And allow them to pay taxes, help the Social Security Fund, and let them stay and contribute with the economy with no criminal record. What is wrong with that? We need them.
So the border czar, Tom Homan, had said pretty recently, he said he's against what he calls, his words, amnesty based on the job sector. I mean, to your point, a lot of South Florida's economy rests on the shoulders of people who are here to be that workforce. He sounds dead set against that. What would you tell the border czar? What's the difference between amnesty and dignity?
Amnesty is what they have right now. You know, let me just backtrack. The word amnesty is something that people just throw there, and then I always ask my colleagues, what does that mean? Amnesty could mean path to citizenship. Amnesty could mean giving them federal programs if they are illegal. So amnesty is something that is like very foggy. But let's say it's path to citizenship. So I'm making it easy for my GOP and for the Dems. And by the way, you know, I have 11 Dems, and my co-sponsor is Veronica Escobar, Mexican-American from El Paso. So this is a really, really bipartisan piece of legislation. So what I'm saying to my friends on the GOP side is that we took away the possibility of granting them any type of federal programs. We're not going to give them path to citizenship. They will have to buy their own health insurance. They would have to pay 1% of their salary to the Treasury, and they have to pay a fine of $7,000 that maybe someone else will pay for them. Hey, what else do you want?
So immigration right now, right, and common sense, very respectfully, common sense is not always the standard when we're watching political rhetoric. So when you and I talked a few months ago, and you were very disheartened by the tone and the rhetoric coming from the Trump administration at the time, and a lot of your colleagues right now, and a lot of people in the country. It's a political football. Immigration as an issue is a political football.
It's always been, Glenna.
Yes, no, 100%.
It's always been.
And so
Democrats played with us. Remember
on
Obama,
for
208.
both parties. For both
he
parties.
promised in Obama.
So here's the question.
I mean, the king of the Democratic Party, he said within the first 100 days of my presidency, we're going to do an immigration reform bill. That's in 2008.
Yeah, it's in my whole lifetime. But here's the question.
And then
what
you had
now,
Clinton, and then you have Bush. So.
Okay, Congresswoman,
no
has the Speaker agreed to advance this? Or where is this going? Have you talked to President Trump about it?
Listen, the president is the one who will sign this bill. It will not be amnesty, it will be dignity. Trump is an intelligent, astute leader. He can break a deal at any time. He's a construction guy from New York. He knows that those hands are needed. He has golf courses at Doral.
Do you have a commitment from him? Do you have any commitments that this is going to move yet?
We filed on July 15th. Just watch what's going to happen now. The conversation is going to start. I did my job as the legislator. It's an easy bill to pass. I'm sure that the president will bless it, and he's going to be for immigration what Reagan was for communism and Lincoln was for slavery.
You will be on his case. I am quite sure of that. Listen, in a couple of minutes that we have left, I want to talk. You were at the detention center in the Everglades this weekend.
Yes. Yes.
For me, truthfully, very hard to report firsthand on anything. People say different things. I like to see things myself to be able to deliver the truth. But what I do know, and what we have confirmed firsthand, is that there are many, many more people being detained there that are not the worst of the worst, that are not criminals, that may have
just... That's my problem. That's the problem.
So
not the conditions.
So
you could be at the Ritz-Carlton and still be detained.
So you know that for a fact then?
Yeah, well, I was there, and that is why the Dignity Bill has been written and has my heart in it. Because you cannot put with criminal who are mass murderers or child rapists with someone who has an I-220 or someone who has a TPS. You cannot do that. And that is why we need to change what's happening right now with legislation.
To your point, due process is and the population there is really the focus right now. And I wonder if anybody in Congress is taking the first step to really make sure that there are people who are not supposed to be there are taken out.
I am. And
care to elaborate?
Kristi Noem said it very clearly that the Secretary of Homeland Security, she said Congress needs to write legislation so we can change the laws.
Okay.
And we just wrote legislation, and I just told her, and we have been in communication with her. We're doing what we need to do out of District Number 27, which in reality is the only people I need to serve. I'm here, and we know that my community understands, even the most hardliners within the GOP, they understand that those hands are needed. Those people may have American kids. They have been here for a long time, and we need for them to come out, pay a fine, and pay taxes.
We will be following the Dignity Act as it goes through, wherever it goes. Congresswoman, always great to see you and have you on the program.
Yes, we will definitely help the country. And thank you for the opportunity. My love to you.
As South Florida community looks to the skies in daily fear, the latest plane crash near North Perry Airport amplifies calls for change. We take it to the top with Broward County Commissioner Alexandra Davis right here next. About North Perry Airport, a daily fear hangs over one of South Florida's decades-old neighborhoods there, literally. Neighbors who live around North Perry in Pembroke Pines have experienced an unsettling number of crashes. The latest was this week. Broward County runs the airport, first leasing it from the U.S. military after World War II, purchasing it, as you saw, outright in 1957 for general aviation, the private and recreational flights. The crash of a small plane flying back to the airport is the latest of dozens like it into the Pembroke Pines neighborhood. This time the 4 people aboard survived, and what went wrong is still under investigation. Since that night, the mayor of Pembroke Pines is demanding change.
North Perry Airport has become the largest, most commonly used general aviation airport in the state of Florida. No one asked for that. We have over 500,000 people that live within a 5-mile radius of the airport. And we just can't continue to have these accidents. Safety has to be delivered to the people in that community, or that airport is simply no longer compatible with our city, and they have to find an option. So I want to see a full, comprehensive, independent safety report of how that airport operates.
Broward County Aviation runs North Perry Airport, and Commissioner Alexandra Davis represents District 7. That includes the airport and surrounding neighborhoods, and is right here at the table with us today. Commissioner, great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I want everyone to know something a little personal that we've cleared for broadcast. You have just undergone throat surgery for cancer, and God bless, I think everything is good, but you're going to be talking very softly.
Absolutely. I was diagnosed with stage 1 throat cancer. I'm not a smoker. They do believe it could have been acid reflux. So folks, you know, make sure you check with your doctors. It's so important.
It's a serious thing. And just for our purposes today, you talk as softly as you need to talk, because I really want to get into something that, you know, the people who live around North Perry are laser focused on this, but really there are neighborhoods around South Florida close proximity to airports like this. And so this is a very important conversation. You heard Pembroke Pines mayor really come out strong. That airport's been there longer than we've been alive. The neighborhood has not. Why this? Why now?
Let me first just, you know, I feel it for the Cardones family. They were the ones who tragically crashed into the neighborhood, and I hope they're doing well. We also have those heroic neighbors who ran in and really didn't think of their own safety and were there even before the fire rescue arrived. So I want to commend them, and I'm really proud to represent them. But in terms of the airport, yes, the airport was there first and the houses were built around it. But we want to make sure that even though the houses were there after, that they feel safe. I live in the district. I'm affected by it as well.
Okay, and that's beautiful, but they don't. and we've heard that today. They don't feel safe. The mayor wants something done. Let me just lay that out there. Is there any appetite in the county for doing anything about an airport that, let's see, 2,000 jobs, 11 flight schools, 60 businesses? That's an important piece of the community, and yet the rest of the community wants something done. Where is the appetite? What is the thought at the county level for change?
Well, you know, the county is responsible for the operation of the airport.
Yes.
So in terms of the aircraft maintenance and the capabilities of the pilots, that falls under the FAA. And if you look at most of the accidents, it's one of those two things, aircraft maintenance or a pilot error.
Sure, sure.
But what's under our control, which is how many facilities we have that lease at our facility. And we could also, I've talked to staff about checking with the FAA as to the aircrafts. There are 417 that are based in our facility. How worthy are they? How airworthy are they? We should try to have some information on that, because we can control what's under our control. But as far as folks flying in and out, which we have 850 takeoff and landings daily.
Yeah, and this is such an interesting statistic. There are 500,000 people who live within 5 miles of North Perry. There are 500,000 people, possibly more, that live within 5 miles, maybe less, of Miami International. What do you make of that comparison?
Well, the smaller aircrafts at the general aviation, as you know, that aircraft is less regulated, I would say, than
Is that
major
the
aircraft.
issue?
Yes, I believe that's the issue because it's on an honor system. I've been told that the pilots themselves have to have maintenance logs, that they've checked their own aircraft and that it's in good working condition. And then only if the FAA shows up and say, well, where's your log? Where's your maintenance log? Let me take a look at it. Then it's looked at.
So honor system, I have not heard that before. Does that trouble you?
It does in a way. I think we should have a little bit more regulation, especially on what we control, who's using who we lease to.
The mayor had talked about air quality tests that the EPA has done and showing that lead in the air is really an issue, I'm sure not just for North Perry, but for municipal airports, lead in the air, and that there's $30,000 for the county to study air quality, but for some reason that hasn't been done. Do you know why?
Well, that was before I've just gotten there in November, so
disclaimer.
I would hope, yes, I would hope that the county administrator will then, make sure that's in our budget this year, that we can discuss doing a study because people want to know.
So your what do you tell your constituents? I'm sure you've heard from them this week and whatever.
Yes.
I just want to put on the record, I reported, I don't know the year, but it was definitely in the 1990s, about a plane crash. One of the things that will stick in my mind forever is finding a bloody watch in someone's front hedge. I mean, that is real for this neighborhood and for the people involved at the airport. So what is your sense? Yeah, the mayor wants affordable housing. He wants the airport to go away. In this conversation, I sense that's not going to happen.
Well, I think the first thing to do is to try to improve safety. And so one of the things I'm calling for immediately is a town hall. The town hall will bring people together from not just Pembroke Pines, because there's been crashes in Miramar and in Hollywood. Yeah. So we want to bring everybody together, discuss what the county is doing, what plans the county has. We did a safety study and assessment independently done in 2021. We want to enhance that.
What did that say?
It said that we operated and that particular airport was doing well compared to the number of flights in and out and compared to other airports.
Doing well in what sense? What's the standards?
And the statistics are 13 accidents and 20 incidents, which accidents are those that cause major damage and death compared to, say, an Opa-locka airport, which is actually more dangerous.
Why is Opa-locka?
They have more accidents, more incidents compared to the number of takeoff and landings at that airport. But that doesn't mean to say we have a lot of, like I said, houses around. So one accident is one too many. We can't afford that.
So just to put a fine point on that, North Perry Airport in studies is average. It is not a dangerous airport by this study's metrics. And it will stay in Broward County. My takeaway here is somehow oversight has to be ramped up by FAA or someone.
Exactly. We need to now meet more frequently with the FAA, ensure that the aircrafts under our control in our facility are maintained appropriately. We have banner aircrafts. Who knows how they are doing, and whoever leases in our airport needs to meet certain standards through the FAA, and we need to be inquiring if they are meeting those standards. As far as the airport goes, the FDOT has given us the thumbs up over 25 years. We do well in the striping. Whatever we have at the airport, what we maintain is done very well. The air control tower is done by the FAA again. So I want us to definitely take a second look, a hard look, making sure that our community feels safe, and it starts with a conversation. What I also want to do...
I feel like it started with this conversation right here.
I also want to bring back the Citizens Board, because that sunsetted last year, and it involved the residents of those three cities, plus staff and people from the FAA and other folks involved at the airport. We want to make sure that we can get together on a regular basis.
Well, I invite you to keep in touch with us. It sounds like some ball is moving, and I really do appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Glenna.
Okay. All right. The court fight and the Miami commissioner. Joe Carollo loses his appeal and then says it isn't over. Another loss this week in the epic legal battle pitting Miami Commissioner Joe Carollo against two Little Havana business owners. A federal appeals panel upheld a stunning multi-million-dollar judgment against the commissioner for weaponizing city government against his political rivals. And still, the commissioner insists it's not over. The failed appeal this week is the commissioner's latest try to lower or erase the $63.5 million judgment against him.
It's never pleasant when you get a negative response from an appellate court or any court.
The stunning jury award stands. The 2023 verdict finding Carollo responsible for a campaign of harassment, targeting and using city code enforcement to shut down the nightclub and restaurants whose owners, Bill Fuller and Martin Pinilla, supported Carollo's political opponents.
I think the good news for citizens of the city of Miami, this is not a judgment against the city. This is a judgment against the commissioner in his personal capacity.
The mayor's optimism does not take into account the tens of millions, as yet untallied, that the legal proceedings have cost Miami taxpayers.
Why is it that we continue to pay for his lawsuit? I'm going to offer a resolution to recoup the monies that we should never have spent defending him in his personal lawsuit. My intention is to recoup that money from him that I think he owes the city and the taxpayer because he just lost. You know, not only that, going forward, if he wants the appeal, he should do it on his dime, not on the taxpayers' money.
This week's 19-page opinion by the three-judge appeals panel picked apart Carollo's claim of jury tampering. One of the jurors during the trial told a judge of a run-in with the partner of Fuller and Pinilla in the court parking garage. The judge then interviewed jurors who all assured him they would remain impartial. That jury's verdict turned on video they saw. Ball and chain repeatedly raided by Miami police and code enforcement. The commissioner himself late at night looking for issues. Texts and evidence from city employees about the commissioner's requests that they check Fuller and Pinilla's businesses for blaring music and illegally parked cars. The appeals panel also dismissed another issue on a technicality. Carollo's attorney had failed to file notice of appeal before a deadline.
We have an opportunity, I believe, to have this reheard again, if need be, in bank by the full appellate court panel. And the appellate court panel, I think, is about 12 or so. And certainly there's the possibility of Supreme Court taking this case up. Granted, these are harder, but not impossible.
The commissioner signaling his intentions to keep trying. We'll be right back. That is our program for today. Links to all the interviews are right there online at local10.com. You know we can get you there pretty easily. Just scan that QR code on your screen and it'll take you right there. We also love to hear from you about anything in the news. Thanks so much for those of you sending me texts and messages as we speak, and you can do so in an email as well. twisf@wplg.com is our address, and you can also find me on social media at Glenna WPLG. Thank you so much for spending this hour with us. It is great to have you always, and have a great day. Remember, keep in touch.